Okay, so let's jump right into it. There are some days when you just wake up in the morning, right? You want to grab your favorite beverage, whether it's coffee, tea, water, juice, whatever, and perhaps not have to cook breakfast. And I have the answer, and it's banana walnut bread. But Jan, that seems like such a simple solution. Precisely. That's the whole point. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Jan. Welcome to another episode on this channel, the Save Money and More with Jan channel. Let's jump right into, in my opinion, a really great banana walnut bread recipe. I made it the other day, and I wanted to avoid the temptation of having too much of it. So what I did was I cut it up into individual slices, wrapped it up, and put it in the freezer for future use. I did chew. I'm not going to edit it out. I sneeze, excuse me. Even content creators sneeze, just saying. I put it into my freezer, and this to me is a great portion control, and it's ready whenever I want it. If I want, I could just take it right out of the freezer, let it defrost a couple of minutes, throw it in my air fryer for a few seconds if I want, or even faster if you have a microwave, you could throw it in there. I don't necessarily always feel like in the morning getting up, cooking eggs, doing the toast. You see where I am going with this. Not just for breakfast, but for, let's say, an anytime snack, or maybe a slice of this with some yogurt for lunch, whatever, or after dinner, or after school or work, just a little bit of something. What I like about the banana walnut bread is, in my opinion, has pretty healthy ingredients. Bananas are good for you. I'm no doctor. This is just common sense thinking. Bananas are good for you. Walnuts are good for you. Okay, so it does have a cup of sugar in the entire recipe, and that's one of the reasons why portion control comes in quite handy. By the way, the recipe doesn't ask for any cinnamon in it, but if you're a cinnamon person, it couldn't hurt to just go to the batter and add some cinnamon flavor, or a pinch of nutmeg, or nutmeg and cinnamon, or just the cinnamon. Just a suggestion, just a thought. I happen to love cinnamon. So for me, cinnamon could go anywhere I want, and I'll be totally happy. Now, before I forget to mention, it does contain walnuts. So if you can't eat walnuts, obviously you don't eat walnuts. This is even easier than doing an apple bread, because you got to peel them, got to grate them. When you're making a banana bread, it's so simple. Just peel a banana, like peel a banana, mush up banana. You see where I'm going? Very, very easy. Another thing I want to mention is about the walnuts. I had the option of buying more expensive walnuts, whole walnuts, or chopped already up walnuts. I got the chopped one for like a fraction of the cost of the whole ones. And I'm like, why would I want to get the whole ones, go through all that work, when it's already chopped and almost $2 cheaper? No. So I eyeball a lot of things. I'll take like a handful of the walnuts. And this is a really important step before I get into the recipe. This is a very important step to make sure that you let it roll around like into just some plain flour. Why are you doing that, Jan? Because that way you have the walnuts doesn't sink down to the bottom of the batter. It'll keep it up, okay? It'll keep it like a float, if you will, in the baking process. And what I do is I put half the batter in the loaf pan, then I enter the walnuts, some. Then I leave some for the top of the bread, so it pokes out on the top. It really, really comes out really, really nicely. Also want to mention, ovens vary. Now, the original recipes usually call for breads like this at about 50 to 55 minutes. My oven happens to be a very, very hot or very fast oven, whatever you want to call it. And I need to literally check mine at about the 42-minute point. Strong suggestion, check yours at from the 42-minute point. The recipe calls officially for about 50 to 55 minutes. You double check that, take your toothpick, comes out clean, it is done. All right, so I want to mention to get that out of the way. I also want to mention that this particular banana bread calls for oil in the batter, which makes it, to me, a lot easier than waiting for butter to soften. I think butter should be used for spreading. I know it has a great flavor. I get that. There's a very, very slight difference by using the oil. I don't see the big difference, but you want to use butter in it? Use butter in it. But this one requires a quarter cup of no flavor oil. I'm not going to use olive oil here. I'm going to use a non-flavored oil, like let's say canola or vegetable oil. Corn oil has a slight flavor, in my opinion, but you use what works with you. Those are still okay, but I'm not going to use olive oil in this kind of a recipe. All right, so having said all that, and of course, excuse me, because I sneezed earlier. Remember, sneeze? Yeah. Just saying. All right, so we're preheating our oven to 350 degrees. Yes, I still say degrees. Yes, I still work with Fahrenheit. Sorry, I'm old fashioned. There you go. Let's see, one and a quarter cup of all-purpose flour. You're going to need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, SODA, as opposed to the other thing. 1 teaspoon of baking SODA soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. From my understanding, the salt helps activate the baking soda. That's what I heard. Now, this is an important step, and I used to totally ignore it. 2 eggs, right? But at what? Room temperature. Long time ago, I didn't pay attention to that. I didn't think it made a difference. It actually does. So 2 eggs at room temperature. Keep it out about a half hour, 40 minutes till it comes to room temperature. A 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla, which means 1 capful. Well, in my mind's eye anyway. And 1/4 cup of oil, non-flavored. Okay, as we went into earlier. Okay. And I think for those who are diehards about using butter, I would imagine that comes to about, I'm using my math, which is never the greatest. I admit that. About I think it would run into about a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter, I think. Because again, with the no flavor and all that, right? All right. So, let me see. Now, when it comes to walnuts, I call it a handful, but my handful, I would imagine, is about 1/2 cup. If you want to use less, use less. It's optional. Honestly, it's optional. But I like the walnuts because it gives it a little bit of a crunch. Now, some people in their methodology, they toast their walnuts for a few minutes prior. You could do that. You don't even have to use the oven for that. What? Yes, you don't. You could toss it in your air fryer for, I don't know, about a minute. Hey, or just let it go at that. Does it make much of a difference to me personally? I don't think so. I've tried it without baking the walnuts ahead of time, toasting them ahead of time. It was just fine. For me, everybody's different. Okay, how much sugar do you need? You're going to need 1 cup of granulated sugar. And that's the reason I like to slice mine up and freeze it so I don't get into too much trouble eating more than 1 piece. This is so good. It's really good. Okay, when it comes to the bananas, make sure they're ripe. You can use 2 large bananas or about 3 medium-sized bananas or whatever. But the trick is that they're ripe, okay? So you have a place for your really ripe bananas, and that's here. Just saying. And you're going to, now here's the trick with this, it's really important. I believe I mentioned it before. Of course, the bird clock goes. Should I just let it roll? Go ahead, bird clock. Okay. All right. In my oven, okay, this recipe calls for about 50 to about 52, 55 minutes in your oven. Everybody's oven varies. Mine is a fast oven. It's not a slow oven. For some reason, I don't know. So one day when I made a banana bread, wasn't necessarily this particular recipe, was another recipe. And I ignored my original, you could smell when something is done. If you've baked long enough, you can almost smell it. And I ignored it. It's just, it's too soon. I didn't check. Should have checked. I mean, it almost was a ruination. It was almost a waste. No. So, in my opinion, start checking about 42. Anywhere after 42 minutes, start checking. You can look through the window, to see if it looks done. You check with your toothpick. If it comes out dirty, leave it go. But I think idealistically, it's anywhere between 50 and 55. I would not go past 55 at all. But really, honestly, start checking 42 minutes, 43 minutes. You might have a fast oven yourself. We don't know that. Benefits of having a pre-made at home walnut bread. You know what you put in there. You don't have a science lab going on in your walnut bread, banana walnut bread. You have the benefits of the bananas, the potassium, the crunch of the walnuts, the flavor. It's a good thing. Also, another tip, I like to keep my chopped walnuts in the freezer. That's what I like to do. It just slows down any decaying process. It works for me. So sometimes when you want a fast protein snack, I think it's protein. Well, it's good anyway, whatever it is. Just take a handful of those out of the freezer. Munch, munch, munch. Hunger vanishes. All right. So hopefully you might make this. I hope you like it. Again, double check the temperature. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I do appreciate your channel support. Channel support includes the following: clicking like, sharing, subscribing. Very, very important. That's really important channel support. It doesn't cost a dime. And I really, really do appreciate it. Super thanks are always welcome. Always welcome. I would never turn down a super thanks. I'm just saying. If you can't do a super thanks, it's okay. I'm happy that you're here. And I appreciate that you are here. And I thank you for your time. I really hope that you enjoy this recipe. And I hope that my video cuts off properly. If I don't cut off soon, you don't have to wait and watch me struggle shutting it off, unless you want to laugh. You just say, okay, Janet, bye. Have a great day, everybody. Take good care of yourself and your amazing family.